Imagine for a second that you've just stepped out of an escape room,
Oh, man. I know exactly where you're going with this.
right? You know the feeling. You've spent hours dealing with these entirely arbitrary traps, solving contrived mathematical puzzles.
Dodging poison darts that make absolutely no logical sense for the room you're actually standing in.
Exactly. And you finally pry open that heavy exit door, expecting to find the brightly lit lobby and, you know, a friendly employee waiting to take your picture.
But you don't.
No, you don't. Instead, you step out into this hostile, living, breathing ecosystem miles underground.
Or basically, everything wants to eat you.
Yes, everything. From the sickly fungus glowing on the cavern walls to the heavily armed patrols marching in the darkness, they all actively want to eat you.
And worst of all, none of it cares that you are supposedly the hero of the story.
Right. It just doesn't care. So, welcome to the deep dive. We are thrilled to have you with us today.
We really are.
For this deep dive, we're taking a massive stack of the sources you provided, articles, rule books, historical notes, and we are extracting the absolute most important nuggets of insight.
Yeah, our mission today is to basically crack open an archival dossier on this remarkably thin 20-page booklet.
Published way back in August 1978, right?
Right. It's called Dungeon Module D2, Shrine of the Kuo-Toa, authored by the legendary Gary Gygax.
Which is just a phenomenal piece of history.
It really is. And, we should be clear right from the jump for anyone listening. This is not just some niche history lesson about a dusty old tabletop game.
No, definitely not.
What we are looking at in these 20 pages is honestly a foundational masterclass in design philosophy.
Yeah, it changed everything.
It did. This single document basically shifted the entire tabletop role-playing industry away from those chaotic, funhouse mega dungeon.
Toward a much more logical, faction-based style of world building.
Exactly. It was a massive paradigm shift, one that heavily influences almost all modern fantasy media, video games, and literature you interact with today.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand that philosophical shift, we have to talk about what it actually felt like for a player.
Yeah, physically descending into this underworld for the very first time.
Right. So in the context of 1978, you are venturing deep underground. You naturally expect cold, dead stone.
Sure, just typical caves.
But instead, the source material tells the person running the game to describe how the air suddenly carries this strange, briny salt tang.
Like you're standing right next to a deep ocean.
Yes, even though you are dozens of miles beneath the surface of the Earth.
And that sensory design, it's incredibly deliberate. It serves a very distinct psychological purpose.
Which is to be deeply alienating, right?
Exactly. Before this module, a typical funhouse dungeon was exactly what it sounds like, a completely random assortment of disconnected carnival attractions.
Like imagine kicking open a wooden door underground and finding a vampire living in room A.
Right, and a fire elemental just chilling in room B.
With absolutely no explanation of what they eat or why they're there or why they haven't destroyed each other.
It was just a sequence of isolated challenges. But this module rejects that entirely.
And the atmosphere completely reinforces that rejection. I mean, you're not using standard torches down there.
No, the text describes how these massive subterranean caverns are lit by this sickly greenish phosphorescence.
Coming from native lichens, and there is this grayish, dim light being given off by fist-sized, slug-like creatures just clinging to the ceiling and walls.
It creates this bizarre undersea atmosphere that is entirely self-sustaining.
It tells the players instantly, like, the standard rules of the surface world do not apply down here.
Right, and that reality is enforced almost immediately by the geography itself, because the environment is really your first major antagonist.
Oh, absolutely. Just getting to the titular shrine means crossing the Smartjet River, which is not a little creek.
No, it is an 80-foot deep, extremely fast-flowing underground river.
And the only way across is a ferry operated by an insane rogue Kuo-Toa.
Who demands exorbitant payment, by the way.
Yeah, but he only speaks an obscure underground language. And the mechanics actually dictate that if you fail to communicate properly with this ferryman...
There is a 10% cumulative chance every single time you try to talk to him that he just flies into a berserker rage.
Oh, and he's allied with a giant carnivorous gar lurking in the pitch-black water beneath the boat.
Naturally.
It is so unhinged.
It is, but, if we connect this to the bigger picture, what we're seeing here is the birth of what historians and game designers call Gygaxian Naturalism.
Right, which is a huge leap from what came before.
Yeah, you look at earlier infamous modules like Tomb of Horrors.
Oh man, Tomb of
Right,
Horrors.
famous for its arbitrary lethality. It was basically just a meat grinder designed solely to kill player characters.
But here, Gygax invented a continent-spanning subterranean ecosystem.
Exactly. The direct precursor to what we now call the Underdark. The random encounter tables in the first few pages of this module are just revolutionary.
They aren't just, numerical filler to wear down your health points.
Well, not at all.
It's like the design evolved from a random obstacle course into a David Attenborough documentary, except the cameraman is actively being hunted.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. I mean, if you roll a random encounter, you aren't just fighting mindless beasts waiting in a void.
Right, you might run into a Kuo-Toan trade delegation.
Carrying specific economic supplies. Or you might encounter a group of religious pilgrims traveling to the shrine.
Or a heavily armed deep gnome patrol mapping the area. It is true ecological world building.
It shows you a functioning society with commerce, religion, and geopolitical borders.
So if the environment is this indifferent and lethal, the creatures that survive down here had to evolve to match it.
They absolutely did.
Let's look at the apex predators of this ecosystem. We need to talk about the Kuo-Toa themselves because they are the main event here.
Yeah. Who exactly are these creatures that forced players to fundamentally rewrite their entire strategy?
Well, they are ancient, intensely xenophobic fishmen.
Right, and the lore establishes that they were driven underground by humanity eras ago, and they've just spent centuries festering in the dark.
They are deeply fanatical. Their entire society revolves around this massive ziggurat dedicated to their sea mother deity, Blibdoolpoolp.
Which the statue of Blibdoolpoolp in the shrine is just wild.
It really is. The module describes a nude human female figure with a lobster head and massive articulated lobster claws.
Let's just put that bizarre image in your head for a second.
It's so unsettling.
It is, but it effectively establishes their utterly alien nature. And their society is incredibly stratified, which you actually see reflected in the architecture.
Right. The module maps out specific spawning pools where they raise their fingerlings.
Slave pens for their sacrifices, and a strict caste system of secular fighters, monks, and cleric assassins.
But what makes the Kuo-Toa truly historic in the context of game design is how Gygax engineered their combat mechanics.
Oh, this is the best part. He specifically designed them to punish the prevailing playstyles of the 1970s.
Wait, hold on. Because I was looking through these mechanics in the dossier, and I feel like I'm losing my mind.
It's brutal.
If I am a player in 1978, I am used to kicking down the door, screaming a battle cry, and rushing in with my best magical sword.
That was the standard operating procedure, yeah.
But the Kuo-Toa use adhesive shields coated in a resinous glue.
Yep.
If my frontline fighter hits that shield, my magical weapon has a massive probability of being permanently stuck to it. I am instantly disarmed.
It completely neutralizes the brute force approach, and, the mechanics for targeting the back line of the party are even more punishing.
Oh gosh, the pincer staffs.
Yes, the elite Kuo-Toa guards use pincer staffs. These are 10-foot poles with spring-loaded metal claws on the end.
And they also use tethered harpoons, right?
Exactly. They don't just deal raw damage. They are designed to grapple.
So they can drag a heavily armored character or a physically weak wizard right out of their carefully planned defensive formation.
Just pull them screaming into melee range.
And if you somehow survive that, you still have to deal with the magic.
Oh, the communal magic.
Right. The dossier says that if you run into a standard patrol of low-level clerics, they possess communal magic. They can physically link their minds together to generate a massive high-level lightning bolt.
That just wipes out the whole hallway.
And if you try to get clever and use stealth tactics, they excrete a biological slime that makes them immune to being grappled or tied up in webs.
Plus, their independently moving eyes naturally detect invisible characters.
I have to be honest, I am genuinely bewildered by this. If I swing a sword, it gets stuck. If I stand back, I get harpooned. If I hide, their weird eyes see me.
It sounds impossible.
How is this a game? How did anyone sitting at a table at the Gen Con XI tournament actually survive this without flipping the table in sheer frustration?
Well, that reaction is exactly what players felt. And it leads us to the hidden genius of the module. It comes down to a man named Bob Blake.
Who actually ran the tournament where this module premiered, right?
Yes. Blake designed an incredibly innovative scoring system for the players. You have to remember, in early tabletop games, you usually got experience points for killing monsters.
Right, hack and slash.
But Blake threw that out. You were not rewarded for combat. You were rewarded for surviving and gathering intelligence.
So avoiding the game's combat was the actual goal.
Yes. Blake implemented a mathematical survivor multiplier.
Okay, how did that work?
Let's say your party earned 10,000 points for mapping the cavern and finding secret doors. If your party took casualties, whether a player was killed outright or dragged off by a harpoon to be sacrificed on the ziggurat,
That multiplier dropped drastically.
it absolutely tanked your final score. The optimal winning strategy was espionage.
Think of modern stealth video games like Metal Gear Solid or The Last of Us.
Exactly. The smartest thing you could do was secure a disguise, observe the Kuo-Toa religious rituals from afar, map the patrol routes, and bypass the enemy forces entirely.
That completely flips the script on what a fantasy RPG is supposed to be.
It really does.
Since brute force is a guaranteed death sentence, players are forced to find other ways around the Kuo-Toa. You would think diplomacy would be the next logical step.
You would think so, yeah.
But this leads us to some of the most glaring omissions in Gygax's writing. Let's look at the other factions in this ecosystem.
This is where we see the transition in Gygax's design happening in real time. Because as brilliant as the naturalism is, it's still a prototype.
Right, it's not perfect.
No.
For instance, the Sverfneblin, the deep gnomes.
Sure.
The module introduces them as a secretive faction living in the same depth.
They have powerful illusion magic, they can summon earth elementals, and they absolutely hate the Kuo-Toa.
Theoretically, they are your perfect allies to help bypass the shrine. But surprisingly, in a module that is heavily praised for its microscopic ecological detail.
There are absolutely zero diplomatic mechanics provided for how to secure this alliance.
It is a fascinating blind spot.
It really is. Gygax tells the person running the game that the gnomes are motivated by greed for gems, but he leaves the actual mechanics of the negotiation entirely blank.
It is entirely up to the person at the head of the table to improvise how that alliance works.
Exactly.
I noticed that blank space, but what really shocked me was comparing it to the hyper-specific instructions Gygax wrote for the Kuo-Toa priest prince, Vagul.
Oh, the guy who sits in room 33.
Yes. This guy is the ultimate anti-boss. Can you break down his mechanics?
Gladly. Vagul is a masterclass in treating antagonists as rational, self-preserving actors.
He's not just a big monster waiting to be hit.
No, he is a 10th level cleric and assassin. But Gygax pre-selected an optimized spell list for him that is entirely focused on crowd control and evasion.
Like he has silence 15-foot radius to immediately shut down enemy spellcasters.
He has continual darkness and hold person. He isn't there to trade blows in a glorious duel.
He's not a video game boss who fights to the bitter end while dramatic music plays. He's a corrupt CEO with a golden parachute.
I love that comparison. That's exactly what he is. The module outlines his contingency plan step by step if he feels his life is in danger.
And the level of detail is staggering. You have to read the exact inventory list for his escape.
It's hilarious.
When I saw this in the dossier, I couldn't believe the level of pettiness.
So if the players are too strong, Vagul just abandons his congregation. He retreats to a secret room and bars the heavy oak door with an iron bar.
Okay, sensible.
Then he equips his boots of speed, he puts on a ring of protection +3, and the text specifically notes, just to be mathematically exact, that this ring has exactly 6 charges remaining.
Not 5, not 7, exactly 6.
6. He grabs his trident of submission, attaches a pouch containing 20 pearls worth 500 gold pieces each to his harness, and literally just runs away to the river to alert the rest of the Kuo-Toa nation.
It is so specific. It completely deprives the players of the satisfaction of a heroic victory and the loot they spent hours trying to reach.
It reinforces that naturalism we talked about earlier. This leader wants to live, and he's taking the company treasury with him.
Right. But how did such a brilliant, naturalistic, yet utterly punishing module actually get made? We have to pull back the curtain and look at the chaotic real-world environment of the publisher, TSR, in 1978.
Oh, it was wild. It was an era of unprecedented explosive growth, and Gary Gygax was under immense pressure.
Because he was simultaneously writing the official Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rule set, right?
Yes, which wasn't even finished yet. The Dungeon Master's Guide, the core book for running the game, wouldn't actually be published until late 1979.
So when people bought this module in the fall of '78, they were trying to run these highly specific, complex ecological encounters using a messy hybrid of old original rules and loose convention handouts.
The Wild West of game design.
Yeah.
And the physical prints of the module totally reflect that chaos.
Yeah, the very first printing from August 1978 was rushed out so fast it didn't even have an ISBN number on it.
And it wasn't until the second printing in December that the publisher slapped a big Gen Con XCI starburst on the cover just to capitalize on its sudden massive fame.
So the creation of this module was almost a creative escape for Gygax.
Very much so. He was exhausted from the dry, technical writing of the massive rule books. With the Shrine of the Kuo-Toa, he got to indulge in pure, weird fiction world building.
And the inspirations behind that world building are fascinating. I mean, the Kuo-Toa clearly didn't just spring out of nowhere. Where did the concept of these subterranean fishmen originate?
Gygax was heavily influenced by pulp fiction and weird horror. The Kuo-Toa are directly inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's 1931 novella, The Shadow over Innsmouth.
Specifically, the creatures known as the Deep Ones, right?
Exactly. Gygax took the overarching cosmic dread of Lovecraft's aquatic horrors and synthesized them into a subterranean threat that fit perfectly into a fantasy ecosystem.
Furthermore, physically, there is historical evidence he based their wide, unblinking eyes on the real-world moon-eye freshwater fish.
Which is what gives them that disturbing, vacant stare.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, though. The name of their deity. Blibdoolpoop. Say it out loud. Blibdoolpoop.
It's a mouthful.
I realized while reading the source material that it isn't just a random string of fantasy letters mashed together.
No, it's not.
Gygax designed it to be an exercise in phonetic world building. It is literally supposed to sound like thick water droplets echoing in a cavernous subterranean pool.
It is incredibly evocative. It works in tandem with the incredible pen and ink artwork by David C. Sutherland III and David A. Trampier that filled the module.
It's brilliant. But for all its evocative brilliance and ecological detail, we do need to address a major mechanical flaw. The cartography debate.
Right. The maps.
I was looking at the scans of these maps in our stack of sources, and I mean, my eyes crossed.
The large-scale hex map of the subterranean wilderness was revolutionary because it showed distance in miles, proving you were traversing a massive underground continent.
Right, but the map of the shrine itself was a completely different story.
Totally different.
Describe what this map actually looks like, because calling it confusing feels like an understatement.
Imagine an architectural blueprint. But instead of separate pages, someone printed the first floor, the second floor, the basement, and the underwater plumbing schematics, all on the exact same sheet of paper.
Oh my God.
It was a two-dimensional plane that tried to represent a massive multi-level ziggurat and complex underwater caverns using this highly confusing system of overlapping dotted and dashed lines.
The people running the game had a terrible time trying to figure out basic lines of sight.
Or where the patrol roads actually went and, just basic vertical spatial reasoning. It caused major headaches and stalled gameplay at the table.
I can imagine.
But this raises an important question. We know it was a cartographic design flaw born out of the limitations of 1970s printing. But does this confusing, claustrophobic map actually serve the module's themes of cosmic horror?
Oh, wait. Like by forcing the person running the game to struggle and feel spatially disoriented.
Does that inadvertently make the game more terrifying and uncertain for the player sitting at the table?
Oh, wow. Like the narrator's own confusion bleeds into the description of the room, creating a true sense of ludonarrative harmony.
Exactly.
You are lost in the dark as a character, and the person running the game is literally barely holding it together trying to read the map in real life. That is a fascinating theory.
It is a great example of how sometimes the structural flaws in a text can contribute directly to its atmospheric success. The confusion became a feature, not a bug.
So what does this all mean? When we take a step back and synthesize the legacy of Shrine of the Kuo-Toa, it is clear it wasn't just a physical bridge between the giant modules that came before it and the drow modules that came after.
No, it was the exact moment the tabletop hobby grew up.
It taught a whole generation of players and future video game designers how to build a world that is ancient, mathematically rigorous, and totally indifferent to the player's existence.
And what's fascinating here is the diverging legacy of the creatures introduced in this specific underground series.
Right, the drow versus the Kuo-Toa.
The drow, the dark elves introduced shortly after, went on to become wildly overexposed in pop culture. They received endless lore expansions, dozens of novels, and video game adaptations.
But the Kuo-Toa, They largely remain in the shadows.
And from a design perspective, keeping them obscure arguably preserved their Lovecraftian mystery. They remain inscrutable, terrifying alien monsters today, precisely because they weren't over-explained by decades of expanded universe lore.
They stayed in the deep, dark water where they belong.
Exactly.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to mull over today. Think about the modern games you play right now.
Whether you are sitting around a tabletop rolling dice with your friends, or holding a console controller exploring a massive digital open world.
Those games are almost entirely built around balanced, unavoidable, combat-centric encounters. You are meant to fight, the system is designed for you to win, and you are rewarded for the carnage.
But have we lost something incredibly valuable by moving away from Gygax's 1978 philosophy?
An escape room-like trap might be a fun, temporary puzzle, but stepping into a living, breathing ecosystem where the smartest, most rewarding move you could possibly make was simply choosing not to fight at all.
That is a very different and much rarer kind of thrill.
It requires a profound respect for the world you are stepping into. You aren't conquering it, you are just trying to survive it.
I couldn't agree more.
Thank you for joining us on this descent into the underworld. We hope you brought your adhesive-proof swords. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.